Hi, we are the Bear Gallery. I'm Lexi. This is Saya. You can introduce yourself.
I'm Saya.
And this is Jake Ursino from the All That in a Bag of Chips show. Jake, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah. So I'm Jake, like Lexi said. I graduated Montserrat from the illustration department in 2017, so a little while ago. And really just been kind of doing my own thing since graduation. Not a whole lot of illustration going on, more like kind of jumping into fine art, which I kind of dabbled in school, but mostly yeah, just kind of doing what comes to mind, and not really worrying so much about, I guess, how to make it an illustration. I guess kind of becomes an illustration in its own right.
Well, we have some questions for you, Jake. And I guess we can start off with, we can switch off.
Yeah.
What inspires your work? Do you people watch?
I think it's interesting, the people watching. I don't think I do consciously. I don't think I make an effort to. Like, I don't jot down oh, this guy was picking his nose on the bus or something. It's more, I think, just kind of observational comedy in my own brain, stuff that I think is funny that I'll see, people will do something and I won't make a note of it, but then I'll be doodling or something, and it's that guy picking his nose on the bus will come out, I guess. So I don't actively people watch. It was funny thinking about it because I haven't I haven't, like I said, I don't actively do that, but then I have friends that do, and I'm like, why do you do that? But I'm like, I do that. I think everyone does that. And I guess just for, inspiration, I like to say that if I'm not chuckling to myself while I'm working, it's not gonna work out. You know what I mean? I gotta be sitting, drawing, painting, sculpting, and if I don't pause for a second, just get a little laugh out of it, I'm it's not gonna be comfortable. I gotta be feeling funny about it, I guess. Almost everything I do has something to do with humor. I can't stay serious for a second. So I think that's really the main inspiration. And then other than that, the things I'll try to make funny will be more kind of similar, observational humor or world at large kind of things. I try not to get too into politics or something else because I'm not that smart, so I don't want to say something out of my ass and it turns out that I look like an idiot. So mostly it's just pretty innocent stuff, I guess, but definitely humor is the main inspiration in most of my stuff.
Cool. Well, I think that ties into the next question pretty well, which is, what are your intentions with creating your paintings and your illustrations, and if you have a message that you try to convey in each piece, even overall themes, but I mean, humor is an intention on its own. So
do you also I guess to also be more specific is, do you what is, I'm making this up as I go. Why do you feel like you're drawn to more humorous themes? I mean, I feel like it's a good question. Curious. I don't know if you have an answer.
Yeah. I think I'm just drawn to more humor because it's easy to just feel crappy, especially now. This year has proven that you can't count on anything too much. Things can go wrong, and it's so easy to just feel like garbage all the time. And it's just way nicer to me to like laugh about it, or at least like find a way that you can turn a negative into a positive, even if that's like in a cynical or like a dark comedy kind of way, as I tend to do, because I don't think you should ignore problems, but if you can turn them into something that you can laugh about or make into something creative, I think that's a good thing to have as like a jumping off point. And like, you know, some things can get too preachy, some things, you know, so I don't like to do that. I don't like to get on a pedestal. I like to like clown around, I guess. Like it's not everything I do, I don't take it too seriously. I think it's if you're taking it too seriously in a certain way, like you take your work seriously, but if you don't like take your ideas or like yourself too seriously, that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good approach, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it all comes across really well in your work.
Yeah.
That also, like, it's interesting too because your work, though it feels really realistic in terms of like what it's depicting, like man in a pool or like man in a chair, but it's also super cartoony and funny. And one of the questions that we had was, how does the cartoon style allow, like, for you to get the message you're wanting to send over, like, a more realistic fine art approach to it? Like, have you, like, even when you were at Montserrat, like, you were doing pretty cartoony things. Like, did you notice that, like, separation between like realistic and cartoon?
Yeah, it's actually something I kind of struggle with even now, even though I kind of like have like my own like little niche style going on. It's weird because I do kind of fight that line between realistic and cartoony, and I think the main thing that I've come to appreciate is like you see painters who can like, you know, do like every leaf on a tree and it looks like a photo and all that. And like, you know, you got like Dali doing like surrealism and trying to make something not real look real. And I always liked that, but I always didn't like how, you know, how things can get too real looking. So I'd rather have like a not like my own world because nothing's connected. Like it's all nonsense. But if things kind of feel like tangible, that's like a positive to me. And I also appreciate painting in general. Like I like color and form and light and things like that. So I like to pay attention to that. And illustration totally helps with that. Like going into illustration, that's like they nail that into you the first like 3 semesters, and then you're kind of allowed to do whatever you want. So it was nice to have like a good foundation of, you know, being able to draw and understand light and understand form, and then bring that into, you know, certain illustrators it's not useful, but for me what I got out of it was a nice middle ground that honestly sometimes like every painting I do I'm like, why couldn't you just make that flat? Like, what is wrong with you? But it's just what I naturally decide, and I don't like. I try not to fight it anymore. It's like I gotta go with that. I need something to have a light source. I need something to have like, what color would this be if it was nighttime? Like, even though this guy is like hot pink, how you make hot pink understandable in like, you know, if you're in like a cave or something, you know, like I like trying to figure out those problems with color and light and stuff like that. So I think also in terms of just getting the cartoony aspect into my paintings helps the humor aspect as well, where if you had like guy in a pool, guy in a chair, like you were saying. It's kind of boring, right? It's kind of like seen that before. But if when I think about things, and I also think about kind of boring things sometimes, like guy in a chair. I just thought it'd be funny if some guy was sleeping. It's more of like a. It's more of like a, I'm glad you like it so much because I don't, but I like certain mundane things. Like my favorite movies are very like straightforward, like nothing too wild, but like how it's done and how it's like made, color and light and story is like more interesting to me than sometimes. So I get interested by like, oh, like what if I just did like a painting of like me shaving from like my perspective and like the dumb faces that I make when I have to shave, or like what if I did a painting of like like a guy who like had too much to eat and he like fell over, but you can only see like his feet sticking up from the table or something. Like just like I like these simple ideas, but if you painted them like a realistically or more fine art way, kind of loses a little bit of like wholesomeness. I think it kind of becomes like its own thing when it's a cartoon or when it's done in a more cartoony fashion. I think more people should let go a little bit of like making everything like need to be perfect, because it's fun to just make normal things weird sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a stigma in the art world of like pushing the realism over cartoony styles. But I really love the over exaggeration that your pieces have. I think it really adds to the humor and that kind of satirical aspect that gives them so much personality. And one element of that I really appreciate is your use of drop shadows. Do they have any significance to them, or is it just a stylistic choice?
It's for sure a stylistic choice. Me and my good friend who also went to Montserrat, Brendan McAllister, he graduated a year before me. Me and him kind of started doing these like drop shadows in our paintings like around the same time. He uses them a lot more, but it's definitely a stylistic thing where I shadows are weird. There's like too many. Sometimes if you have two light sources and this and that, like you have to figure out how to overlap them. But if you just got like this hard, like black line, it's so much more funny. It's so much more like interesting visually. Like you kind of understand it less, but also you immediately know what it is. Definitely a stylistic thing for sure. I don't have any like thought behind it. It's just looks fun and nice.
Yeah, I think it really just adds to the kind of unique character that your pieces have.
It's also just funny because like that's like what art school is just like lamps everywhere. So it's just but I guess we could go on to even just ask I mean, and I feel like we're also like asking like what does it mean? What does all this mean? But like your work is so like I don't know, it feels really like iconic to like you specifically. Like and we were like noticing just like when we were looking at your work, like these like objects that like repeat or feel like very intentional, like the chair, or like you have the man eating a burger behind you, and like like the soda cans or beer cans and all this stuff. Like do you take these like objects that kind of surround you in your own life and put them in your paintings, do you think, or do you just like, or is it just nothing? Like is it just natural?
Which is a perfectly fine answer.
That's a
too.
perfectly fine answer.
Yeah.
I'm just so like curious because it looks so like intentionally there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, look at that.
Yeah. for sure, for sure. There are definitely like certain things that I like to hold on to. They're kind of like first things that I draw when I'm doodling, or like if I'm just, I'm at work and nothing's happening, like my first thing is like, oh, I'll just draw a guy in a hole. Um, I love holes, just pits. That's something I always like to draw. Um, Beer cans are really just like, that's more of like a it's more of like a me thing. I'd say that's kind of like a symbol I like to put around, like I'm drinking beer, I know it, like, and it's kind of like it's around me. So I guess it's kind of like a twofer for that one. It also just adds a lot of, just like whatever, like I put a lot of beer cans in the guy in the pool that's at the show. I think it adds more humor to it. Like tells a little bit more of a story to have like a little bit of stuff around you. Chairs and stuff, tables too. I like piles of things too when tables are easy to like start piling things on. I'm trying to think of other things that I do. Oh, cheeseburgers. Yeah, I just think cheeseburgers are great.
Yeah.
Like I don't eat them all the time, but
And newspaper.
cheeseburgers are just cool.
Got newspapers going.
Yeah, yeah, the newspaper was that was like such an old idea. It's so funny, like going when I was trying to find sketches for you guys earlier last week. It was so funny to like go back in time and just be like, I still got to do that painting. The newspaper one was a drawing like this big that I did of like my dad reading the newspaper, and I thought it was funny because he's bald, so his like head was poking out, and all I could see was like his hands, and I thought it would be a good one to like write a bunch of like fake articles on it. So that one's like such a weird old idea. It doesn't show up too often. Mainly just that one painting that I did for my show that was at Mingo this year before everything kind of hit the fan. But yeah, I guess object I paint, they have, there's some symbolism behind it. I don't want to say that I like use symbols, but they're more like, there's like just stuff I think is funny almost, stuff that I think is useful for telling a story within a frame, they're good like snapshot devices other than like holes and pits. I don't know why I like those. I just think they're interesting.
Do any of your scenes relate to each other? And like, do you, because you typically depict these very simplistic characters that all kind of have similar features. And I guess we were wondering if it was kind of like a character that you came up with, or if, it's just a random person every time.
It's kind of a random person every time. Like I don't think any of them connect to each other. It's not like I have my own like little universe, but they're not like meant to be like, oh, like that's Dave, he fell in the pool that one time, and like, hey, there's Rachel, and like it's not like that kind of thing. Where some people totally have their own universe. But mine's really like, I think my main goal was like very specific to like, not that like everything kind of is like very not personal, but like sometimes it's easy for me to put myself into the paintings depending on like how I'm feeling that day, or like if I want it to be kind of autobiographical, or sometimes I just kind of want it to be like some cartoony guy, and you can kind of put yourself into their shoes because they don't look like anyone. It's not like, oh, that guy looks like Bill Clinton today or whatever. Like it's very like I try to keep it almost like a blank slate where you can kind of chuckle at it and then if you are so inclined to be like, man, isn't that how I feel today? You know. I definitely tried to do that with the one at the show, the guy in the stockade. You know, he's like stuck in the medieval handcuffs or whatever, because that was done during quarantine, and like the drawing was old, but then I was like, oh, this is the perfect time to get this painting done, because like this is exactly how it feels right now. And I feel like that one's a good like I forget what the word is, but like you can just immediately, he's my good go-to face, I guess. Like he doesn't really have like any defining features other than like a big long nose.
Template, like
Yeah.
like one of those plain paper dolls before you add all the clothes and the hairstyles on, and he can become whatever you want him to be.
That's true. They are pretty naked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like to draw them naked too, so that doesn't help. Yeah, like I think that it's either like it depends on the painting or on the drawing, because sometimes I'll do something like a situation that I'll be like, oh, this is like a metaphor for like, you know, like whatever. There's a drawing you guys pointed out way back, of this guy who was tying himself to a rock.
Oh,
And I was like, when I first did that one, it was definitely like with the idea of like, how do you illustrate like procrastination, or like how do you illustrate like you getting in your own way, overthinking things that I suffer from, like when I'm painting, and when it gets in the way of my creative process. So it was a good like way to kind of get that out there, and now I have it, and it's like and I like it, you know. So it's a cool way to have like a physical representation of a way that you were feeling at a certain time. Yeah, some of them are like autobiographical, but then if someone else is like, oh, I wonder what that means, and then you can totally put your own spin on it, you know. It can be like, oh, like I'm in a crappy relationship, or like, oh, I have an addiction to ice cream. I don't know. Just if you have anything you can kind of put your mind to, because it doesn't look like me. It's just someone.
It's nice that you're able to like illustrate those ideas that are pretty universal, and I think honestly that's probably why like your paintings are so awesome. Like
they're very attractive, I think, to people, because like you said, it's taking these very complex but everyday issues that people have and illustrating them in ways that maybe we feel but don't necessarily express. So it's cool to see that over exaggeration and like these interesting figures that we can kind of put ourselves in the place of, but the pieces also stand alone on their like by themselves, you know, without that extra context.
yeah. And I
Yeah, I like that. It's okay. We're both like lagged, so like I'm like seeing your mouths moving and then not hearing for a while.
I guess like, just to kind of unless you wanted anything to say before that, but I mean, really, I was kind of just wondering if you wanted to close out this like interview in any way. If you had like any messages that you wanted to shout at Montserrat students that are current students or alumni, if this reaches any alumni, like, do you have any like final thoughts that you're feeling? No pressure either.
Putting me on the spot. Let's see.
Like,
I mean, like current students, like especially this year.
Yeah.
Like especially this year with current students, like just like keep trucking, dude. That it sucks. Like, I've seen people talk about it online where it's like, I have so much time to work now that I'm like in quarantine, and like, nope, it's time's kind of occupied mentally, you're emotionally, you're kind of in a different spot. At least I felt it. I'm sure everyone felt it at some point this year. So honestly, yeah, dude, just like it's tough this year. It's tough anyways, you know, grappling with your own work, and like teachers will say like, "Ah, this sucks," but like, you know, it sucks even harder this year to try to grapple with that stuff. So definitely, just everyone just keep working, even though it's tough. Um, Alumni too, dude. Like it sucks, like going from like 100% everyone's on the same page. You got like all your buds, everyone's like drawing and sculpting and taking photos just like you are. And then all of a sudden you're like working at the liquor store, and like this dude wants to talk to you about the ball game he didn't watch, and like it gets sucky quick, man. So definitely, I'm not alone. I know all the other alumni like falls off. It falls off your to-do list easy, like making art and stuff. So, um, yeah, just I want everyone to just keep going strong. Honestly, that's really all I'm not. I don't have. I'm not different. You know, I'm just like everyone else.
Hell yeah. I think that's a good, like, final send off.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it was really great talking to you. And, like,
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like this was pretty cool talk.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys are interested.
Hope everyone is able to see the show when it's up physically, but also no fear, it's going to be virtual very soon.
Yeah,
So, hell yeah.
yeah. I'll have to sneak into the building sometime soon. I still haven't been able to jump in there, but I'll make it there soon.
Hell yeah.
I'll bribe the security guard or whatever, give him a pizza slice or something.
Well, thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for having me in your little computer screen.